It's Sunday night. We're live. The last day of the season, and it went right down to the wire. And I tell you what, it's been the longest week of my life. As an Evertonian, life nearly finished on Thursday. And thankfully, I just didn't have to go through the turmoil of today. And whilst I've been looking at the bottom end of the league, I know, Charlie, you've been looking towards the top end of the league. So, hard luck, mate. The quadruple disappeared in the blink of a Stevie G moment this afternoon.
Yep. I know.
There you go. It was. Do you know something? He did absolutely everything for you, didn't he? Did Steven Gerrard? And I've got to admit, I've got a couple of mates who are City fans, and he'd sent his two kids had gone to the game, and they were sweating. They were absolutely sweating on that result today. They said it was the most horrific feeling to be within a stadium where you knew that if Liverpool scored, you were going to lose the league, and then suddenly, and I give Pep his due. I know it's what he paid for, but he made the most masterful substitution of bringing Gundogan on, and that was it. Didn't really seem to matter what Liverpool did after that, which was unfortunate because Salah decided he was getting on because he wanted a share of that golden boot that our mate Son was about to steal from him. And yeah, it's just been one of them. How do you feel? God, I have to be honest, and I'll share with you how I feel, because I've got to be honest. Well, it was today. I didn't really give a monkey's what was happening today, because I wasn't expecting anything from Everton.
Well, it's been a fun day, because I actually had Sophie joining me in the living room all day this morning watching the hype, and she just didn't understand it, and she was asking me questions too about the hype and what the different scenarios that could play out. And then during the game, things were unfolding because before the game started, I was talking to Sophie saying, listen, as the game's going on, we'll know the Manchester City progress as it's going on, because the crowd's going to go nuts if Aston Villa score, or they're going to start going really quiet if Manchester City score. And everything happened while it was playing out on the game. The crowd went nuts, and I started going nuts. And she's like, "Does that mean Aston Villa scored?" And I was like, "Yes." And then we watched the update, and it's like, "Yes, they scored." And then they scored second time, and I was like, "Now they need to score 3." Yeah. And I was like, "But we still need." But for a while there, they hadn't scored, and it was like we need to win this game and whatnot. And it was she stayed there the whole game with me. She was getting pretty excited about it. She was laughing at me a lot because how I was reacting and stuff. It was a fun day. Unfortunately, we just couldn't squeak it out. We did our job. Yeah, I just think Aston Villa, and they did a great job, but they think they just ran out of gas. That's why they're a mid-table team right now. They need five or six players that will bring them up to the top six.
I think for me, Charlie, and I think you've actually hit upon something which I don't think we've ever had the chance of talking about, but it's actually it's that ability to pass on to your children your passion for the game of football. I remember as a kid the times, and it was it wasn't on the TV all the time. Hence the reason with grey hairs and stuff like that. It was basically the only game you saw live was the FA Cup final, and I remember it vividly, as I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and that's what gets you into football. And for you to be able to sit there with Soph today, I just think must be the most amazing feeling.
And another funny thing that happened, because she remembered the if you guys watch the season 1 of that guy, the soccer guy. On
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, right? Ted Lasso. Hey. And he's like, "Oh, is that why they were all in the stands checking their phones and they went nuts?" Yeah, because they know the other team scored, and they only need this to happen. She started laughing. She's like, "Oh, now she understands it," And it's like, and that was what was happening on TV too. You get the crowd was going nuts whenever Aston Villa scored, and it was great. It was a fun day. Yeah.
It's that real? Is that? Yeah. Yeah, and actually that must be the infuriating thing as a Liverpool fan, because actually City have run you close now on I think it's now 3 separate occasions where and even this season, I think you've actually lost less games than City.
Yeah, I think so.
They've lost 3 times. You've lost twice, and I think you've just drawn 2 more games than them. And that's the difference. It is just unbelievable. It really is.
Yeah.
And I would also say, I know Stephen will be with us in a minute, and I'm sure I can press his buttons so we can have a good rant about this. I know we talked about VAR continually. See, look at that. I knew that talk mentioned VAR, Stephen's there. It's like, bang, right? I mean, but that dodgy penalty, the dodgy penalty that City got, they shouldn't have got when Rodri actually handball. Was it Rodri's handball or we never got a penalty? That's the difference. When it comes down to it, Everton being cheated has cost Liverpool the league. You heard it first.
I bet you that sits well, doesn't it, Brian, John? I've got Brian now. Brian will be able to join us now.
Brilliant.
Right, let's get Brian in. Apparently, he's a red, right? But married to a blue.
Hey, there you go, you see.
Hey, work that one out.
Hiya, mate.
Hello,
Right.
How you doing?
I'm not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No, it's always good. It's always good. Got to do these things. You see, it's just like you might as well. I know Nick said he'd be in the chat as well tonight. It's that end of season feeling.
It is.
And I tell you what, the blue half of your house is probably happier than the red. Just saying.
No, not really. Not really. To be fair to us today, it was never ever Liverpool's championship, was it? Our season finishes next weekend. That's the end of our season next weekend. Not today.
Yeah.
And on a side note, this is how much confidence I had with Salah playing today. I made Son my captain, and he got me 24 points.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to play.
And I heard on the, obviously I was in the background there. I was trying to get Brian in on the link. And I heard Charlie crowing about the final day. I thought, to be honest with you, Charlie, I heard you, and I thought, you know what? I thought we're going to do this, but why aren't Liverpool winning? Why aren't Liverpool winning? The 2-0 down, why aren't Liverpool winning? I thought, but anyway, Stacey's in. Happy Sunday to you, all, Stacey.
Yeah.
Poor Stacey. Me and Sophie were watching a game, and she was doing all the packing and stuff around us, and I was like, just don't be crossing in front of the TV. That's all I
had. I'll tell you, it's probably a really good time to say this, but Stacey and to Sarah, I'll just say a massive thank you, because actually all season you guys have been there and you've been in the chat. You've got on every single week, and yeah, it's really appreciated. It's that level of support. Thank you so much.
I don't know how Charlie's been doing it, John, but I've been shaming Sarah to the laptop and said, "What's this?"
Change to the laptop and then put it on your phone as well. See how many you get the numbers up. Get the numbers up. Oh dear. And it's a real strange feeling today, because actually I feel really sorry for you guys. It was, I think even you said, Brian, it's just the whole fact that it was never in your hands today, and actually you'd done exactly what you had to do, and that was to win, and just hope that Stevie G would have come up with the goods, and unfortunately he slipped up again. I couldn't resist. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
It was a heck of a ride though today. It was definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah, and like I said just before you guys came into the stream, I had a friend whose sons were at the game at City, and they said it was the most hideous feeling, just sitting there knowing that you're 2-0 down, that you've got nothing on the pitch, which just wasn't working, it just wasn't happening at all, and then suddenly you bring Gundogan on, and it just opens up an opportunity for them to go and score, and to score quite quickly again after that. And I don't know, it's just but we were so we couldn't end up which game to watch, because unfortunately I could have done with like 3 screens to watch it all.
Yeah, as soon as Liverpool Liverpool scored their second goal, that's when I went over to the Man City again. I started cheering on Aston Villa. Said, please score another one. I wouldn't even draw.
I think it Gundogan come on and changed it, didn't he? He done it. He done the last final day of the season. He was the one who scored the goal, was he not? And then I heard you and Charlie mention about the handball that cheated Everton in the season. Rodri, wasn't he the one who scored the third goal as well today?
He was,
yeah. So it's irony. It's and to be honest, I've seen things on Twitter where people are saying, if this handball hadn't happened, we're going, ifs and buts and maybes. If Liverpool had turned up against Tottenham and beat them at home, we'd be title champions. There's loads of ifs, buts and maybes. As a Liverpool fan, I know there's two others below me there, in Brian and Charlie. I'm really proud of that team this year. They've took the quadruple further than any other team has ever done in history in this country. Really, really proud of the lads. Really, really proud of what they've done. Yes, and to be honest with you, let's give credit to Wolves in that game, because Wolves were unbelievable. In fact, dare I say, it took a couple of injuries to Wolves for us to be able to beat them. I mean, Neto, he just looked. Let's put it this way: he didn't look like a Neto type of player, did he? He looked like Moore's Market Spencer's.
Hey, you've been waiting all afternoon to say that, haven't you?
I have. In fact, if we go in for him in the summer, I'm saying we're shopping in Netto. Going to shop in Netto. But no, I think the lads today did themselves a great service. I'm not the biggest fan of Keita. Really, I'm not. I don't know what he brings to the team. I just don't know what he brings to it. But you know what? That was one of his better games today. I thought he wasn't poor, but he wasn't great. Do you know what I mean? Which I suppose is, the same as like Salah when he's only good. Do you know what I mean? He's not great. It's I don't know. Maybe you've got different thoughts on that. I don't know. I thought he had an half decent games today.
That's the second half. I thought first half he was ball by an awful lot. First half it took him probably a good 20-30 minutes against the game. Second half he was much better. But yeah, I thought that Liverpool done the job, as we've said. You know what I mean? And going back to the VAR incidents across the season, it's 38 games, isn't it? Liverpool tried the best. And that's all you can ever ask for. And I'm the same as you, Steve. I'm proud of the team today. But as you say, we've got one more week to go. You know what I mean? We could be here celebrating finishing 16th. Yeah.
Oh, John.
You know what I mean? and that. Bear in mind, because the missus is blue. I had to enjoy it on Thursday.
To be fair to him, John, he does live in a house where his wife is a blue. He's got two lads. One is a red and one is a blue. So he's the house literally is 50-50.
Costs you a fortune. No, you don't get. There's no hand-me-downs there, is there?
No.
We were all sorted. As eldest son grows out of it, youngest one got the other share. It was fab. It was absolutely brilliant.
Doesn't happen this hour.
I tell you what, and I've got to admit, I think when I said last Sunday, I was ready for the worst. And at halftime on Thursday. It was the worst, and it was that whole feeling that I knew we wouldn't get anything today. I knew that. I'd looked at that was the first fixture I looked at when the fixture list came out last season. So you don't expect anything from Arsenal away. We had to do something on Thursday night, and I don't even know I do not know where that game came from. The second half in particular, and I think for years to come, that will be spoken about of one of the greatest halves of football that Goodison's ever seen, because it was from nowhere, totally from nowhere. A bunch of overrated players, and then you chuck Dele Alli on. It's just like, and it becomes even more overrated. And I've no idea. I'm I'm not complaining.
No, of course not. But the squad Everton have got, they have underachieved massively this season. Look, the players they've got in that squad are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they should never, ever be in that position, ever. You know, and
no.
The fans got behind them the last 4 or 5 weeks. But
I've got to admit, Brian, that has been the catalyst for a little bit more of an effort from players on the pitch, because the fans have absolutely demanded it. The passion of the fans has been just apparent, and actually the toxicity that was there.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
During the time when Rafa was manager, it became completely toxic. The dressing room was toxic, and actually, you think now, okay, people say, "Oh, yeah," and we'll watch it next season. You know, the Lampard out brigade will be there.
It won't take long, will it? It won't take long.
Yeah, but he's actually united. He actually has brought the club, and he's actually brought the board a little bit closer to the fans, which seemingly a few months ago was just never. They were continents apart.
Yes, they were.
You know, and at the minute, there's a little bit more of an understanding. I don't have any belief in the board that Everton want whatsoever. I think they're a bunch of crooks, but that's another issue for another day. But at least the players started playing.
I think it's a good nail on the head there, John. And what I mean by that is, you said Lampard's brought the board closer to the fans.
Yeah.
I love Rafa for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You know, one thing you'll never get from Rafa is the link between the board and the fans. He'll always go toward the fans. In his Valencia days, in his Liverpool days, his Chelsea days, his Inter Milan days, whatever days, he's always been at loggerheads with the board. Yeah. That's what he does. It's just how he does things. You know, he was never going to do that.
But he never got the full support of the fan base, and that's at which, when he started his little political games where we lost, you know, we sold Digne to Villa, and then we sacked Rafa a week later, and you're just like, hang on, nobody, you know, get rid of Marcel Brands, your director of football, and give Rafa more responsibility, and then you sack him. There's just no long-term plan, and that's the worrying bit. You know, it's actually been intriguing, because I'll watch over the summer and see what Lampard is going to do to quite a bloated backroom staff at Everton. But he's brought his own lads in. He's brought Ashley Cole in, who's actually made a decent left back of the Ukrainian lad Mykolenko, and he's been fantastic. The one thing I would say, I think he's not gonna just sort of say, "Oh well, you used to play for Everton, so come and join in training." Those days they've got to go. They're so old fashioned. It's just like, let's be professional about it, and let's have a real sort of focus moving forward. You know, even my father-in-law this afternoon texted me, and he just said, "Look, yeah, pleased that you stayed up, but the hard work for Lampard starts now. You know, it's just who you're going to keep, who you're going to move on, and where you're going to conjure up some money from, because we haven't got any money."
That's the big thing, isn't it? You got to sell. You got to sell. And you sell your prize assets now, because who's going to buy? I don't know. Who you sell first and foremost? Who's going to buy them, and who then replaces them at what price? You know, it's a tough job for. He's got a real tough job in the summer, Lampard. He really has.
Yeah, absolutely.
The person you need to get rid of, and I'm not saying this because he's a poor player for Everton. I'm just thinking he's just got the wrong attitude for the club. Richarlison, he needs to go. He's just got the wrong attitude. He's just got. It's all, for me, Richarlison is about me. The most important person in Richarlison's life is Richarlison. Yeah. You know, you can't have a team ethic with that, you know. I'd
agree with that, Stephen, but what I would say is, actually, when the fans really got on board, he turned around to the fans and he said, "Look, I'm going to make sure after all of this, I keep you up." And after that, he's done exactly that. He didn't play today because he'd had a knock or something like that, you know. But I think he'll be first out the door. I really do. And actually, fair play to him. go and find a bigger wage packet somewhere else. Because actually, if we can get a load of money for him, then we desperately need money injected into the club.
I agree. It is. I'm with Brian though. I think it's a monumental task in the summer for Frank Lampard. It's going to be really, really hard. What does he do? Because for me, we've spoke about this throughout the whole season, John, haven't we? About Everton and being a mixed match of so many different styles of managers. So for me, and like I said with Rafa, he needs time. He was never going to get the time under Everton because it was Liverpool links. He just wasn't going to get it. And whether he'd got off to a flying start or not, I don't think he'd got the time that he needed. Also with his political games, do you know what I mean? Like I spoke about before. He just needs time to get a few. He needs 3 or 4 windows. And when I say 3 or 4 windows, I'm not talking January, because January is such a hard window. If you want a player to come in that you absolutely need, you pay way over the odds. Everton are skating on thin ice with the FFP at the minute where that's concerned. So they can't do that. So he needs 4 or 5 summer transfer windows. But what Frank needs to do on the flip side of that, what Frank needs to do to gain that time is show improvement. Show, not just how we taking in players to improve the team, we're also taking these players that are left over, we're improving them as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
If you show us the money, sorry to coin the phrase of, that show me the money, Tom Cruise film, Jerry Maguire, if you show him the money, right, he's got to show the ability first of taking half-decent players and turning them to really good players, because that's what a coach does. And I know we're talking about Everton, and I'm going to go back to Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, because I don't think there's anyone better in the world than Jurgen Klopp of taking a good player and turning them into an even better world-class player. Salah, Mane, he'd done it with them. I could go on and name a few others. You've got to show that ability to do that, and then the board will back you. So it's not just as much as saying, like, the board's got to back him, but the manager's got to show that ability as well.
Yeah. And can I widen it a little bit more? Because actually, I've got to remember, Burnley got relegated today. Now, Burnley equally are in a position where they got rid of the manager, quite controversially. I hasten to add, because I think if they'd have kept with Sean Dyche, I think he would have kept them up. I actually think he's got the organisation to do it. We never found out why Dyche was pushed or went or walked or whatever. And as obviously, I think Burnley was subject to a takeover, which involved a loan that was made to the club, of which, because they are relegated, there's a lot of money at Burnley that needs to be repaid as a result of their relegation. And to be honest, I'm thinking there's be a lot of clubs circling for the likes of Tarkowski, and certainly for, was it Nick Pope as a goalkeeper? And I think to be honest, I'd rather Everton got rid of Pickford and got Pope back in, because I actually think he's a much better goalkeeper and a much more solid shot stopper, and a more important, goal saver. But it's it's heartbreaking, because actually I think we're all looking at a team where they got rid of Steve Bruce, and I think we've had great. I personally, I'll put my hand on my heart, I've had great amusement at Newcastle and Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce in particular for way, way too long. And yet suddenly you get rid of Ashley, you get rid of Bruce, doesn't matter which order, and then you put Eddie Howe in there, a little bit of money. He's not really bought big.
He hasn't.
But look at they finish 11th. Finish 11th.
Yeah.
No, they've had a good season in Newcastle since the end of the year.
Yeah.
But the problem is now you're hearing the rumours, aren't you, that it's Jose Mourinho coming in. And I was talking about this with my brother-in-law the other week. He turned around and said, "Well, Eddie Howe wouldn't get too comfortable about it because you're gone, mate. They'll replace you. There's no two ways about it. It's just sad to see."
I think my initial thoughts on that was Eddie Howe will last the season. See the season out, and then he'll be replaced. But I think he's done that much of a good job And as John says there, they have not splashed the cash at all. They've brought in one or two, like Bruno Guimaraes and players like that, Trippier, great, good players. They've come in and they've got 11th position. From when he came in, they were 17th when he came in. So he's done an amazing job.
They were relegation for that. They were done for.
Brian, I think they were 20th. I'm pretty sure they were bottom of the table, 20th or 19th or something like that.
They were absolutely done for, and that's the bit where I actually think Eddie Howe was actually. It does if they sack him, that's fine, because actually on his CV, he's actually done an amazing job. So for him, it's not. He's gone beyond being that one man at Bournemouth, done what he did at Bournemouth. No, his style of man management, his style of coaching. Is actually it's there for all to see. I think they're in the top 4 of form teams.
And
so you know, I think for Eddie Howe, I think that in itself, he'd walk into another job in any other club. And I would hate to see what happens if Newcastle go down the Mourinho route. I just think it's just he just.
Bad move. Bad move.
It's not a fit. It's not a fit for the club.
No.
But on the other hand, on the flip side of that, there was Leeds who changed their manager as well. Charlie, a man from your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And we were joking on Ted Lasso. It's Ted Lasso coming in. What's the news coming from all the Atlantic on there, Charlie? About this, I forget his name now. He's took Leeds and he survived on the final day of the season. He's still going to be a Premier League manager next season.
Crickets. You don't hear about that stuff over here unless you're watching. Unless you're watching. Again, the only NBC Sports is the only. We have it all on the Premier League, on that channel that I watch, and I love that channel. I'm glad we have it. But, the regular news ain't covering the Premier League, believe me. Even with
that'd be like you asking us if the regular news over here is covering, I don't know, the NFL or the basketball or the NBA. It's not going to happen, but we have channels that cover it.
Well, the 60-year and older bowling league, that would be more like it.
Is it the cornhole toss stuff that they have? World Championship cornhole tossing. Yeah. That is the highlight of any trip to Orlando. Middle of August, it's the World Championship. There you go. But you're going to see that on American telly. Nobody talks about it over here,
Yeah, but I'm glad they stayed up. I hope they keep him. I hope next season he, keeps them out of relegation again.
Yeah.
And, he's pretty. The guy seems fired up and energetic, and he seems like he's a player's manager. So I hope to see more of him.
I give him his due. Jesse Marsh. I was very skeptical when he came in, and actually, I think what he's managed to do, which is what Bielsa didn't quite understand, is actually he's made them a little bit more difficult to break down, because there's some wonderful players at Leeds, and they just need, they've been slaughtered by injuries. It's just, I think it was the Bamford's only played 9 games for them all season.
Yeah.
And what was nice today was the fact that you've got Calvin Phillips back on.
Yeah.
But Jack Harrison, and both of them, I think, would be on the shopping list of any top 5 teams shopping list for the summer. But it's just, I'm going to continue this theme of teams that have changed managers. So for Everton, it was a good thing. For Leeds, good thing. Burnley, shocking. Watford. Watford just like change managers like they change socks, don't they?
Yeah. Norwich, I thought he had a monumental task game when he went in.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had a monumental. There's no way he was going to succeed that. He knew when he took that job, that's it. He's going down. He had It's about, for him, it's about preparing the team.
They'll come back better.
Yeah.
So the one I'm thinking about is the one that. And I know this is like just chucking the little smoke bomb into the middle of the 18-yard box at the middle of Old Trafford. So, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Sacked. Yeah. But then they put some Muppet in for the rest of the season. I actually think United would have finished higher if they'd have kept hold of Ole than they have. You know, 6th place on 58 points. At one point today, when West Ham were winning, United could have finished 7th and they could have been got that conference. They weren't even the Europe conference, whatever. They weren't even qualifying for the Europa League.
Crazy,
and that is absolutely nonsensical for Man United. And I've got to say, I still think that's one of the worst bits of business they did in actually letting Solskjaer go, because I still think he would have got more out of that squad than Ranić has. And I think to go to Palace and just have your noses rubbed in it today, I think is shocking. And I think United fans, obviously not many United fans watch this show, because obviously there's 3 Liverpoolians on it tonight and they're not going to listen to anybody talking to them. But United fans have really got to... I think they've basically given up on the season. They really do just wanted it to end. There's something bigger in that club that needs sorting out. And
100%. I agree with you, John. I think that goes well deeper than just them 11 players on the pitch. That goes right into the boardroom. Right? That goes to the core of that club. There's something fundamentally wrong at the moment. I don't think it's a massive task to fix it. I don't know if Ten Hag's the answer. I think the players need to reinvest themselves in the club. There's too many players there who don't really want to be there. You know, you got all the stuff with Pogba. Is he signing? Is he not signing? Rashford, how is he not getting a game? It's beyond me. Then he has all the Greenwood stuff earlier in the year. It's like there's something fundamentally wrong somewhere at Man United. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's as you say, would be better keeping Ole? Probably. Ranić's come in and hasn't changed a great deal. In fact, made it slightly worse. I don't know. I don't think they're far away from being great again, but I think they're a million miles away from Liverpool and Man City at the moment. And that's going to hurt them. That's going to hurt them. Absolutely.
You know, if you think about, it, they're sitting there on 58 points, and like, what are they? 35 points short of City, and they've got a goal difference of 0 against City's goal difference of plus 73, which kind of tells its own tale in a way, doesn't it? You know,
they've got a long way to go, but like I said with Everton before, they've got a new manager coming in now in the summer. They've got to give him the backing, but the manager himself has got to show that ability to do something, and that's where I'm probably going with. I don't know whether it's his defence or what. No, we'll go with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He never really looked to improve anyone. Do you know what I mean? He looks to really rely on getting transfers of better players rather than making his players better. Yeah. So for me, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was an average manager for me. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's just an average manager. Whereas, what's his name? The fellow who's come in,
Ten Hag.
No. The fellow's in there.
Ranić.
Right. He's tried to improve them. It hasn't worked, I will admit. But when you listen to him talk, he's trying to coach them in a different way of playing. You'd have seen straight away that Man United were much more of a pressing team. They pressed a little bit higher. All right, they weren't doing it in the kind of way Klopp does it. But, you know, Liverpool didn't do that in the first 2 years.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have the personnel to be a pressing team. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can only play with the quality you've got and the ability you've got. It's okay saying I want to be a pressing team. As Charlie points out quite rightly there, you can only do that with the right type of players. They've got to buy into your methods. They've got to have the ability to do that and play on that front foot. Unfortunately, United got a load of prima donnas who don't want to do that. They're happy to receive the ball in deep areas. Actually, Pogba, fantastic player. But he's never going to chase down defenders when they're trying to close the ball down. That's not his game. and he is the focal point for Man United. He's probably one of the best players on that pitch for United when he wants to be. When Paul Pogba wants to be the best player, he can be the best player. He's not going to do the things that Ralph Rangnick wants him to do because that doesn't fit into his agenda. That's not Paul Pogba's way. And that's the fundamental problem is they've got too many of them players with too much of a big voice. And that's why he went... when David Moyes went in, they had big personalities in that dressing room. Big personalities. He was never going to win them over in his style of play. Solskjaer came in and the players loved him because he's a legend. But his style of play did not suit United. And it's this... The final piece of jigsaw for me is finding that piece so they all come back together again. They're never going to get an Alex Ferguson again. They're never going to find that. But they need somebody to buy into. And maybe Ten Hag, the way he plays football for Ajax, maybe his ways, his methods, and he's got the summer to work with them. We could see a different United come August, September.
We could do, Brian, and I think you're spot on with what you said. But I'm going to take this all the way backwards. United years and years and years ago. You think about United in the 1990s, right? They brought the kids through, the class of 92 and all that, and they never bought. They never ever bought flash players. Liverpool never done it in the 70s and 80s, and Liverpool have gone back to basics and reaping the rewards now. And what I mean by going back to basics is this. You buy players who want to achieve something, not players who've already achieved something. So you buy players with the hunger and the ability to strive to their goal, right? And where I'm coming from that is, I'm going all the way back to Juan Sebastian Veron, right? You remember when United bought Veron?
Yeah.
You were thinking, wow, United have gone for the big time here now. That's United to go. And if it wasn't for Alex Ferguson being the manager, and I'll be honest with you, a Liverpool fan, it hurts me to say this, he's one hell of a manager. He could 11 players up off the street of any town, city in the world and won the Premier League with them players because he knew how to coach players into a good player. But when he started going down the road, and I don't think it was Alex Ferguson that went down this, I think this was more started with Edwards, where he started going, I'll tell you what, we're going to start buying this type of player, we're going to start buying that type of player. So you got Ten Hag coming in, and I agree with you, if he can play the way he's playing with Ajax, United will be a force to reckon with in 3-4 years. But who pulls the strings in terms of transfers? Who pulls the strings in terms of philosophy? Are they going to go? Because Man United started trying to chase down this Galactico philosophy from Real Madrid. That never worked for Real Madrid. So why they carried on going down that road was beyond me. It never worked. You get a load of prima donnas in one place, you're going to have a whole mass of prima donnas. You get a whole mass of players who haven't quite made it yet and have probably had a good few kicks along the way. You're going to get a load of players who are determined and hungry for the game. Like you have with Liverpool. We've got Salah, we've got Mane, we've got Firmino, he was kicked down. We've got that in abundance, and that's what you need. But on top of that, like I said, with the Everton manager and the Man United manager coming in, you need a manager who's going to be able to take them players and take them to the level that they're capable of getting to.
Yeah.
You mentioned philosophy there. I think that's massively key. The players have got to buy into what you're trying to do. They've got to believe in you.
Yeah.
They've got to believe in your methods, your tactics, everything you do on the training ground, everything on a Saturday, Sunday on the pitch. They've got to believe in your philosophy. Otherwise, you've got no chance. As soon as one person thinks, I don't agree with that, you've lost it again. You lost it again. And you know what I mean? I think Everton with Lampard, I think they will buy into his philosophy. I think they will. Liverpool have with Klopp. City have with Pep. They've got to. United, that's where it's gone wrong for me. The philosophy of the manager, they haven't bought into it. They've got too many egos in that dressing room to say, no, I'm not doing that. And that's where it fell down. The manager hasn't been strong enough, potentially, and got rid of that troublemakers. You know what I mean? And that's how it comes across. We could be totally wrong in this. But I agree with you. It's come from Edwards or Edwardwood, wasn't it, when United, and he's like, I want to do this, that, the other, and the Glazers above him potentially, and pushing down, saying, we've invested this money. We want to see some returns. So we've got to go for these marquee signings. They don't always work. And you're dead right in saying that. And that just comes down to the philosophy of the manager. And the players have got to buy into that. They've got to believe in what you're trying to achieve on that field.
That's the job of the manager, to put that across. Doesn't matter what philosophy you have, a good manager, you could have the worst philosophy in the world, but a good manager will put that philosophy across in a way that people just buy into it, and that's all down to personality, charisma. You're not taught this stuff. You're just not. It's a natural ability to do it. Guardiola has got it in abundance. Klopp's got it in abundance. Ferguson had it in abundance. Paisley had it in abundance. Kendall had it in abundance. You know what I mean? They all had it in abundance, and that's what they need to bring to the table. Where the players need to bring to the table their ability, and so it can shine.
You're right. Who's the manager? You're right. However, if you're a manager and your philosophy is absolutely, if you're crap and you're talking absolute rhubarb every week, the players are going to turn off, because if they see it's not working, it's your philosophy. I get that. You've got to portray that. But if it's not working, the players have got that much of a voice now that they will turn the back, and that's where you start losing it. So I agree with you in some respects that the manager's got to deliver that philosophy. Of course he has. That's where it comes from. But if your philosophy is rubbish, the players aren't soft either. The players are going to say, "You're talking absolute crap. It's not working. We need something else." But no, this way we're going to play. But no, let's try something else. No, it's my philosophy. That's how we're going to play. In that case, jog on. I'm not going to play for you. And that's what's happened, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's the case that happens in clubs that change the manager far too readily, far too quickly. The dressing room is just completely confused by, which philosophy we're following this week, because it becomes sort of really apparent that, you get some players that are bought by certain managers and then they get left behind, and you can see them. You look through the list at Man United. Players that Mourinho brought in. You can still see the players that were, at Everton that Big Sam brought in, and they're still paying wages week after week after week. And these players are not going to move on because they signed a really good contract that they were making really good money on. And so they'll take it, and I think it's really quite amusing, because you look this week at what PSG are doing to try to prevent Mbappe going to Spain on the cheap, and actually they're signing away the most incredible amount of money for someone who next week might have a bad back and can't play for 3 years. But he'll soon keep taking the money. He'd be quite happy with that, but it's quite frightening. And I think, again, going back to your point, Brian, about some of them younger players at United, the likes of obviously Greenwood's situation is completely different. But like Rashford seems completely lost at the minute. He needs someone to take it, to take him under his wing, just to try to see how you can get the best out of him. The lad Langer comes and goes in and out of the team. I like him. He looks really promising. But they paid big money for a lot of these young lads. The lad they brought from Borussia Dortmund. I'd love to know how many games he's played this year, because he seems completely lost, totally lost.
Yeah. And he was done well for England, hasn't he? And he was in Liverpool a little bit in years gone by, and he's come in, and you're right. Why hasn't he played? Why? There's got to be something, and this is what I can't get my head around. Why hasn't he played? You sign him, and you think he's a wide left-sided player. He's fantastic, full of speed. He can put the ball in the back of the net. He was doing it for Dortmund, as you say, week in, week out.
Yeah. I think Charlie, you'd mentioned about Diaz a couple of months ago as well, and just how he's sort of settled in at Liverpool. But it's a prime example, isn't it? Whilst he's not played every week, he's actually played when it mattered. Yeah,
he's done great. Great enough for me to to sell Salah, and I bought Diaz this past week. I like his determination, and I like how he's a game changer. Whenever he has the ball, you can almost see the fear in the other team when they have to go up against Diaz. And even some of those games, even some of those big games, he was showing flair on the ball too, showing that he was enjoying the game, which is great to see. I hope he is the starting three next season more often. For me, he has jumped over Diogo Jota, and I think Jota is now fourth on my list of because Jota hasn't done much for me anyways the last 4 or 5 games. I think he's just I don't know what's wrong with him. Maybe he's tired. The whole team is tired. You can tell.
Yeah.
That's why I'm worried about next week too. The Champions League. I wouldn't be surprised if they get crushed because they're just so tired. Everyone's tired, and they've gone through all the subs and everything too. So it'll be a tough game. But yeah, Diogo is great, and I think teams need to look to the younger players. The older players, especially like Man United or whatever, you gotta go back to what was working back in the 90s. You gotta bring people through the academy. You gotta bring prospects with desire and drive into the team rather than going out buying expensive players that, if your manager's changing every 5 weeks, they're not going to buy into the new strategy or whatnot. That's all I'm going to say. I was going to say Man City, it's like, they're the greatest right now, but how much money have they spent on their current roster? Yeah. It's insane amount of money, So you've won it 4 out of the last 5 years. Yeah. How much did you pay for that? That's another thing people got to take into.
And they still don't have a European Cup, Charlie. Right, and that's all that. They don't have a European Cup, and we've got a chance to go and get our 7th European Cup next week. And also, I'm going to say about that, look, I'm with you, Charlie. City have spent an obscene amount of money. Even if you take away the gross and look at the net, it's obscene. It's absolutely obscene what they've paid. It's not money they've generated as a club, and I know, and the usual jab you get back off City fans or Chelsea fans and now the Newcastle fans is, but Liverpool and United spends all that money. But Liverpool and United have built the club up to such a size that they can generate that money year in, year out.
That becomes self-sufficient. I mean, Liverpool United are self-sufficient on a global market. In fact, City are getting there, but you just said about City's spend and the billions they've spent. However, they've still got a centre midfielder playing at the back today with Fernandinho. So no matter how much they've spent, the squad depth still is not that great, which is frightening. It's like all the money they spend, and people go about this about City can replace player for player. They can in the midfield and forward areas, but at the back, they're very hit and miss, and that was proved today with Villa getting 2 goals. It was proved against West Ham last weekend. They can be got at. The only thing that City have got is they'll score more goals on you because they can. You know what I mean? The players he brought on, Gundogan, I think he's a fantastic player, Gundogan. He has been for years. I don't know how and why he's still there. Well, I do know how and why, because he's getting paid loads of money. But why isn't he getting a start in any other team? Because he would do. He can go to any other team in the world and play every week. 100%. My only fear
I never understood why Liverpool never went in for Gundogan. And it's all documented that Gundogan's a Liverpool fan.
I like
Welcome in, Nick. I've just put it in the text as well there. And congratulations to Spurs as well for you.
Yeah, Nick.
Well done. We haven't actually spoke about Spurs yet, so it doesn't matter if you're late or not. Your club is well to get spoke about, I think, in the next 10 minutes. But yeah, I think Gundogan, he's a special player, Nick. I think he's a really, really special player. He's a big occasion player.
Yes.
So he'll turn it on in that big moment.
Yeah.
In fact, where a lot of players will shrink in that moment.
Yeah.
He's one of them players that kind of flourishes, like our own very own Divock Origi. As much as I don't want to say too much about him in terms of what he's delivered over the season, over the years, over the consistency. But he comes on for the big moments and he does them big moment things. But
Usually against Everton.
Gundogan, and I'm really embarrassed to put Gundogan and Origi in the same sentence. Gundogan is way a step above Origi. He should be. You stick him in that Liverpool team, I'm telling you now, he's starting every week.
100%.
And if you put him in Man United's team, you put him in Spurs' team, he would start every week. And that's the bit I can't understand with City, because actually it must be so frustrating to play for them, because you with the best will in the world, you need a run of games so that you've got that level of fitness, that level of that positional sense of actually having the same players around you week after week, which I think is what Liverpool thrive on, because it's a very sort of tight-knit squad. Everybody knows the run that each other's going to make. At City, you've no idea who's playing next to you, 1 week to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick's put on there his whole cynical self, new Liverpool will bring Salah on. Hey, if you're going to take the Golden Glove, you've got to share it, like they did with City to say. If you're going to take the Golden Boot, you've got to share it to the Spurs to say. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Nick. I think all of us, we can all go into United's team and start every week as well. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I love that.
Let's talk about Spurs and what that means, and the fact that Liverpool didn't quite pip City in the title. It means that in my predictions, I got the top 4 absolutely spot on: 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well done, Stephen.
I had that, and we'll get to the World Cup for you in a minute, John. All right, I'm still a bit bitter on Charlie Jordan with me last week. Not that I've eaten lemons much. I had City to win, Liverpool to come second, Chelsea to come third, and Spurs to come fourth. And even Nick in the chat said, "Never going to happen with Spurs."
Yeah.
Have the faith, Nick. Have the faith. I thought your team had it. All right, I know you said before that it changed as soon as you got rid of Santos, but I honestly thought even with Santos you'd have got there in the end. But hey, you've got a well better manager in place now.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you went and beat, was it Brighton 5-1, was it today? Brighton 5-1?
Norwich. They were away at Norwich. They were expected to win today. They were expected to win today.
Arsenal won 5-0 against Everton. Today.
Yeah. I was expecting that.
On the beach, John, weren't they?
I don't know, but I saw a picture of Jordan Pickford, who wasn't playing today, and he looked as if he was still celebrating Sunderland's promotion from yesterday. He looked as if he was hammered. He looked absolutely off his tree. And I'm thinking, I'd be intrigued to see if that comes out in the press, or as to whether or not he just picked up a knock. And if he'd been given the day off yesterday, I'd understand it. But he looked absolutely off his head.
He was probably upset and fireworks off all night outside Liverpool.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't surprise me.
I'll tell you what, Nick, with a comment like that, you're lucky you're still in the chat. That's all I'm saying about that. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, controversial.
I'll tell you what is controversial. If it wasn't for Liverpool, how bad would that league be?
Yeah.
It
would be like the French league, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Just
say that,
yeah.
It would. If it weren't for Liverpool pushing City every year for the last 5 or 6, how bad would the Premier League be now? It would be an absolute disgrace, wouldn't it?
I'd like to win more than one side.
That's a really good. I like that. That's a really good point, Brad. If you look at the fact Chelsea finishing third and they're 19 points behind City. Now, imagine that, 19 points.
Crazy,
that's it'd be like the Scottish Premier League, wouldn't it?
It's absolute crackers, and obviously I'm slightly red tinted glasses on here, wise. But I think it's amazing what Liverpool have done over the last few years to even keep pace with City. You know, I know we've got some fantastic players, of course we have. Yeah. But I think to be where we are and to push how we've pushed over the last few years, continuously over the last few years, has been amazing. And now they've just gone and brought Haaland in. But where do you go next?
Yeah, they've done all of that without a centre forward, and now they've bought centre forward. Yeah. It's just like,
does that not go against their philosophy and how they play? Though they're going to a totally different way of playing now. For me, does that? Because Pep's quite silent on whether he's going to sign on for City. I think what has he got, a year, 2 years left? I can't remember off the top of my head. You know, is this City going down a different path? Because I'll go back to what we've saw with other clubs before. Who's deciding which signings are bought, which signings aren't? Do they consult with the manager? Is it just a purely different set of team? Because some clubs will go, no, we've got this team, we're going to set the players. You're the head coach these players to play how you need them to play. Or does Pep have more of a say? And if Pep does have more of a say, Pep has never, ever, apart from Bayern Munich, by the way, where I think he had Lewandowski. Before he went there. So that's the only centre forward I've known Pep to play with.
Yeah. Because I think it's intriguing because actually I think this could end up being the plan B that City have actually never had. They've kind of tried to rotate those midfield players into that false nine. And now, if you get a proper, good old-fashioned number 9 player, you can hit it long, and you're now going to find teams getting caught out against City because they're sitting so deep, trying to play with the press, and then suddenly they just launch the ball over the top of you, and then Haaland will be in there. He'll knock in about 15 goals, and then they get injured.
In theory, it sounds right. But it's a complete change of philosophy for me.
Yeah.
It's massively different. It's like chalk and cheese. You know, to bring Haaland, to be honest with you, they got him for a steal, 51 million.
Yeah.
Absolute steal.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. If it's a totally different philosophy, do you think he is trying to now steer more towards winning the Champions League?
100%.
Most definitely.
Maybe Haaland's maybe he's a Champions League buy. That's
to be honest, Charlie, and like I said it earlier in the season, I was very fortunate to be a guest of Wickham at the Carabao Cup game at Man City, and I got to speak to some rather impressive people there, and they'd set the season up for the Champions League. They were serious about signing Harry Kane in the back end of the summer window, and I think that they were a bit miffed that they never got him. They were also De Bruyne wasn't going to play properly until the end of November, which proved to be true. They'd set the whole stall out about Champions League this season. I think they're probably quite relieved that they've got the league. They're probably still very gutted that they're not in the Champions League final, and I think they need to go again next season. And I think that's why we all love this game. It's just the fact that they've won the league, and yet they're probably disappointed that they've not got what you three are going to go on and enjoy the Champions League final.
Hopefully.
Before we start going into the Champions League final, because I'm conscious of time, we've got Nick who's come with some good points here. He'd be interested to see how Haaland copes next year, and then he'll be kicked from the post. And I've got to say, do you know what? It is going to be interesting. It really is.
Yeah.
But he's a big lad. He's not German. Is he Norwegian or Danish or something like that, Haaland?
Yeah, and his dad could look after himself as well.
They're not, they're not scared of the old bump themselves, from that neck of the woods. But at the same time, as much as the German league is probably the closest to the Premier League, it's still miles off from the pace and the physicality. Miles off.
Yeah.
For me. That's just my honest opinion. I know other people probably have a different opinion, but for me, it's just miles off on the physicality and the speed and the way it goes.
Stephen, I'd agree with you, and I'd also chuck in the fact that I also have my doubts about sort of the Dutch influence, that if Ten Hag's going to come into United, if you start bringing Dutch midfielders back into your team, they too lack that tenacity and that physical presence that the Premier League has. And you find that, at Everton, there's Davy Klaassen, who's still Ajax club captain, things like that. Couldn't get a game for Everton. He really struggled. The Premier League just drifted by him. Donny van der Beek found the same thing at United. Couldn't get into the team. He'll go back to United, and I think he'll be the guy there. But I still doubt whether Dutch, coming from the Dutch league, coming from the German league, even coming from Spain and Italy, it's a different league altogether. And it's that physicality, the physicality that I don't think most people actually recognise. And it is throughout. It's through every league in England. You even go down further down the leagues. There is a physicality that is not there, and at least the Premier League level, it is a little bit more refined, and it's not. It's not the physicality that we saw in the 70s and 80s where it was just kick everyone, but it's still there. It's still there, and I think that's where a lot of players find it difficult to find their feet when they come from abroad.
I like that comment as well. Let's see how he deals with the snowy Monday night at Palace. Is that the new wet Thursday at Stoke? Is that the new one?
Yeah.
Lads, we've got an hour done. Right, it's our final show of the season, right? And unfortunately, I've not been able to get the predictions up on the table to see what's.
That's all right, Stephen. We'll forgive you. We know that you got the top four.
Probably got the top four spots on, so I probably won that one. But John, for winning the Fantasy Football League this year.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I would also Charlie for drawing with me last week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'd also add a little proviso in as well, because in my household fantasy football, I was once again pipped at the post by my eldest son. So I won't invite him. I won't invite him to join us next season. Right, just saying.
Yeah. Get him in, and we'll have Darbo win. We'll have Darbo win, so we still have Mr. Average there because it'll be under.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, on that note, here's where we ended last season with a prediction for the summer transfers, and we all got it horribly wrong. Yeah. Horribly wrong. Right? I done better in the season predictions. Just here we go. So
I'll tell you what, Stephen, as you arrive at Orlando International Airport, was it next week?
No, Tampa. Flying into
Tampa. Well, there you go. Same thing. When the guy checks your passport, checks your passport, is looking at your pictures. You need to go. Did you know? I got all my predictions right for the Premier League. You need to tell everyone. The whole of America will know. In 2 weeks' time, you'll be on Charlie's Sports Channel.
Hopefully next Sunday I'll get to meet Charlie in person for the.
Oh wow!
We'll get that. That'll be good.
Superb.
We've got the Champions League final next Saturday. Bring on the Reds. Let's do that, lads. But come on. We try to predict which manager changes will happen in the summer, which players will go where. Charlie, I'm going to put you in the spotlight first. What do you think on that? What do you think the big changes this summer will be before the next season starts?
I don't know. That's going to be tough. I think with a lot of the changes that happened in the end of this season, I think there's going to be no coaching changes over the summer. Probably 5 weeks in, there's probably going to be 3 or 4. You never know, but it's going to be an interesting summer because we do have the Man United head coaches changing. So it'll be interesting to see who he brings in, who Newcastle bring in. Nothing's going to change with the top 3 or 4, I don't think.
Can I go next then?
Yeah.
Go on, John.
Because I'm going to add. I actually think we're going to see Chelsea in a summer of quite a bit of, and I might be totally wrong. I'm not frightened of talking rubbish and getting it wrong, but they've lost Christensen, they lost Rudiger because they didn't forward plan. I actually feel that I think Tuchel, if he's not given support financially, I think he'll just tell him, look, nah, I've had enough of this. I'm not going to be bothered with this. I'm going elsewhere. I think that there's a massive question mark over everything that's going on at Chelsea, purely because we've not been told that the takeover is 100%. I still think that needs to play itself out a little bit more. And I think that's the club to look towards, because actually they've got a lot of players that are worth a lot of money. And I think there could be a little bit of a little bit of cashing in on the value of some of those guys. And I'd like to get to next season and be completely wrong, but that's the team I'd be looking towards for a little bit of a scare story. And I think Nick is absolutely spot on. Calvin Phillips to any team. I tell you, I'd love Calvin Phillips in my team. So he's top draw. He really is.
Yeah, he's a top player. Bit controversial the second sentence, because I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. I think he's done well at Liverpool, but yeah, I know where you're coming from. He's 37 now. He's not going to give you the performances you need now. So I think it's time for Milner to go. Go on, Brian. You go, lad.
No, to be fair, I agree with the Chelsea shout. I think there's something underlying there as well. The takeover is obviously one thing, and yeah, they are losing some big players. Rudiger, Christensen, there's 2 centre halves gone. Managerial changes, I can't see there being many. However, player changes with the Mbappe deal not happening. I can see Salah going to Madrid.
Can they afford him? Can they afford him though? That's the thing. I really have got such a doubt about Spanish teams. They'll pay the wages because they can offset it against their financial sort of mismanagement and dealings and stuff like that. If there's a transfer fee involved, I think a lot of Spanish teams are really struggling at the minute because their TV deal is absolutely shocking. A lot of Spanish clubs are struggling so much, even Madrid and Barcelona. So
obviously, Madrid are owned by the Spanish royals, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they offset a lot of wages and a lot of pay. I just think that's been Salah's stumbling block, waiting to see what happened with the Mbappe deal. I do. I think he could be on his way. I think now that's not.
That's a good call. Like that. I think that. Do you know something? I've been trying to get these guys to come up on this one. I keep having a nibble every couple of weeks because I still think the Salah and the Mane bit is up for discussion at Liverpool.
Massively.
Given the way that the Fenway Sports Group work, I feel that they would cash the chips in, and I think they're buying the Diaz when they did at a decent price. I think they've got a ready-made replacement. There you go, Charlie's there.
Maguire.
Some past notes there.
Yes, he is. You know what? So I think you make good Chelsea. To be honest with you, when it comes to me to talk about, that's exactly where I was going. It was the Mane and Salah thing. I was going to pick up what Brian just said there then, right, with Salah. But Mane, let's have a look at their 2 seasons, right? August, when it kicked off, up to the African Cup of Nations, Mane was awful. Salah was brilliant. Right? They both went off to that tournament. Mane had the tournament of his life, and I'm sitting there thinking, as a Liverpool fan, thinking, why couldn't you have done that in the red shirt? Where have you been? Where have you been all season? But on the equal measure, Salah just disappeared. I'm thinking, where have you gone, Salah? You didn't play the red shirt. They come back from the African Nations. And do you know, when Salah come on today, I was actually half gutted because I was thinking, he's not going to do anything. He's not done anything since January. He's done absolutely nothing. He's already out the door. for me, Salah.
Yeah,
He's already got one foot out the door. He's only got one thing in mind at the minute, and that's revenge against Real Madrid. Don't be surprised if Salah next week turns on the fucking star next week. Sorry to say it just escaped it. He'll turn on the style, right? Watch, he'll do it. But with Mane, he's just turned into something else. But, and he's a big but, both of them are 30 in the next 12 months. And Mane's already 30. Salah's 30 in his next birthday. Wittich on FSG have a model of, outdoor, let's cash in. And I'm with that. I was with that last summer when people were saying, take the money for Salah. I was going, take it. Take the money for Salah and invest in it. Because Liverpool had so much on the... We were on the precipice of breaching FIFA fair play rules, really, with our signings. And I know our net spend is really low, but in terms of wages and stuff like that, we spend an awful lot. So to get someone like Salah off the books and someone like Mane off the books, it frees up so much space for the future.
It certainly does.
And the reason I'm going down that road with Liverpool is because Klopp signed a new contract in the mid-season there, just towards the end of the season. Now I think that's them going, right, okay, let's plan again. Let's build another team now. Let's get Klopp going in another team. So that's where I think that's going. Totally on board with the Chelsea thing. I think Chelsea are in a right mess, but... We'll see
can I just add in as well, and as someone who's not a Liverpool fan, I think it's probably a good opportunity to say it. If Liverpool have to do something that is quite brutal, because actually you've got the most amazing team. You've had a few absolutely incredible seasons, but you need to start seeing how you can change it so that you can actually win, not just Champions League, but to win the Premier League as well and actually exceed what City are doing. And that's very difficult because I think probably over time in proper seasons, you probably would have won the Premier League. But since City are setting the bar so high, I think Klopp now, and like exactly what you're saying, Steve, it's just that whole thing where he needs to sit down and see how can we go again? How can we make that 10% improvement?
Yeah,
and if that means getting rid of Salah and Mane, then that's what needs to be done.
I think a fresh up needs to go because I think the front three, as good as they've been over the years for us, Salah, Mane, and Firmino, they've been brilliant. They've probably been our best front three ever, and it's been really good.
They could buy a Brazilian who likes to fall over a lot,
No,
just saying. Like I know how much you love the lad. I know how much you love the lad,
No, this is the thing, though, John, you see, because Mane does that too much as well. Mane
ready-made replacements.
Yeah. No, like sticking with Charleston with the sun.
I can't see both hitting the exit door, but I certainly see one of them going. And I think my money's on Salah to go.
I'd rather Salah.
But as John just said, then Liverpool need to reconstruct in some way. So who comes in? Here's a controversial one. Harry Kane comes in.
You can keep him.
Brian. That's Charlie's YouTube channel. Baby man, please, John. Yes, I'm with you, Charlie. Go on, Bryce. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Harry Kane's the replacement for Liverpool to change the way they play football.
Oh.
You say that, right? We were talking about, Ireland going to City before. Yeah. I've heard the rumour that Lewandowski's up for coming.
He is. Yeah, he is.
He is well, isn't he?
Do you know what I mean? And he's an out-and-out striker. How interesting would that be?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm with you when you said if it wasn't for Liverpool, the league would be boring. And you know what? Problem I've got with that is, well, the Liverpool and City just seems to be going way above everyone else. Way above.
Yeah.
So I hope that the rest of the league can catch up, I mean, Chelsea were closest this year, they were miles off, but they've got a lot of problems. So I'm saying this, and I'm going to say it while Nick's in the chat. I reckon the best team placed to put City's and Liverpool's noses out of place is probably Spurs right now. They've got a world-class manager in Conte. I'm going to be interested to see what they do in the summer, because I'll tell you now, forget Man United and Ten Hag, they've got 3-4 windows 4 or 5 years before they're challenging for me. But Tottenham are really on the precipice of it. But I'll tell you what, Dad, I'll tell you what, if we get Kane, that'll knacker Spurs right up.
I agree with you. Spurs
not sold, though. Not sold. He's not sold. You're not sold. What? Kane's not sold. You're not sold on my prediction because you ain't sold on my prediction last year, Nick. And it turned out all right in the end, didn't it?
It's just Daniel Levy, isn't it? He's the problem.
It is.
He's Tottenham's problem, Daniel Levy.
He's massively Tottenham's problem, and he's the only problem Tottenham have left now. The only problem Tottenham have left is Levy. He is toxic. He needs to be removed. I say toxic in the lighter sense, not like he's toxic, he's an evil man. Yeah. I mean, the way he deals with things, the way he's... Now, I've got no problem with being ruthlessness. With ruthlessness. I work in the commercial world myself. All right, I know how to be ruthless, but there's a time when ruthlessness should not be used, and there's a time when, you know, a bit of charisma and a bit of, you know, human passion should be used as well to get that over the line. I think Levy doesn't have that in his locker.
It's just got dollar signs, and that's the thing.
It's not Kane, but not Son, Bri. We're sorted. Tell you what do you reckon, Charlie? Second, we'll have Kane at Liverpool next season, but not Son.
I'd rather have Son.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
And anyway, I agree with Charlie. I'd rather have Son. Yeah. I just think Harry Kane has tried to get a move once. I just think he'd be more inclined to go. So he's in
the Champions League.
I kind of remember some extra long Klopp Son hugs after some games this season. So.
But he had them book with that Traore as well, don't Charlie? You know, he's gone to Barcelona. Believe that?
Yeah.
Hey, right. Anyway, at the start of next season, we will say who won the prediction league for last year. It's going to be me. I know that. But John, your trophy will be out here.
No problem, mate.
I left it up in Cumbria. I've left the trophy up in Cumbria, so when I get back from the States and back up into Cumbria, I'll send it out to you.
Yeah. Hey, have a good trip to the States, Stephen. And Charlie, have a good meet up. Hope your house move goes well.
Thank you.
I
look forward to catching up with that. And Brian, thanks for joining us.
Brian, don't go anywhere. Right. Okay. Go. See you next season.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.